Well, the San Diego City Council unanimously passes a resolution declaring support for Proposition 1. This is the behavioral health package that is going to be something that voters will be seeing on the statewide primary ballot next month. And joining us now to talk a little bit more about his stance on this, the resolution's author, Councilmember Campillo. Councilmember, good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Let's explain this a little bit more, because this actually comes out of a 2004 proposition, right, that was passed. And the idea was we're going to tax people who make more than $1 million a year 1%. We're going to take that money for behavioral health services and try to do some good things with it. What does Prop 1 do with that 1%? It changes kind of things, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So Proposition 1, it's on every single California voter's ballot. Essentially what it does is it reworks the algorithm of that millionaire's tax from 2004 and makes sure the counties spend it on the crisis that we're facing today. So it's going to continue to spend on services, but it requires counties to spend more of it on the infrastructure. It's the beds, it's the facilities, it's the housing that we're seeing facing so many homeless individuals. One of the biggest things we hear from calls at the city council offices is that people are worried about the psychiatric needs of the homeless people on our streets, because if we can't help them with that, how are they going to make sure that they're housed? The county is the Health and Human Services agency for our region, and the city has done a lot with structures, with tents, with parking lots, safe parking lots, and with shelters. But the county is really responsible for the mental health spending. So Prop 1 essentially takes the old model that's been in place since 2004, which frankly is not meeting the needs of today, and it's making sure counties spend at least 35% of that money that they get on the actual facilities, on the beds. That means detox beds. We are so far short in San Diego County in need of detox beds. Places like Father Joe Villages say we need more detox beds immediately, because a person who's rolling off of drugs and says, I'm willing to take help now, we don't have beds for these people. They have to wait months. So this is what Prop 1 does to make sure we have the infrastructure and facilities in place to actually make sure the services work.
And there's like another 30 or 35% for programs and things like that. I mean, you've got about 65% that has to go to certain things.
That's absolutely right. So 35% has to be allocated towards the facilities and the housing and the beds. 30% has to be allocated towards the services, the wraparound services, the things that actually really helps a person who's having psychiatric needs, like the counseling, the medicine, the work job placement, things like that. It also has a set aside for veterans who are suffering from these issues, and it had bipartisan support at the state legislature to make sure it got on the ballot. So this is reworking a 20-year-old law that the voters approved to meet today's needs.
So that's part 1 of Proposition 1. The second part is this bond measure. Tell me a little bit about that and how much you're looking to get.
So the bond measure is designed to raise $6.4 billion to be able to put that infrastructure in place. Where that money comes from is not a new tax. What it does is it reallocates the money that's already collected by the tax, and the state keeps 5% more, so it goes from a 95% to the counties and 5% to the state. It's now going to be 90% to the counties, 10% to the state, and with that extra bit of revenue, we're going to bond against that so that we can go and build those facilities. That means 11,000 more projected mental health beds to really help people get in place with the psychiatric care they need. And the reason that's so important, every day San Diegans know when you show up to an ER hospital or you are trying to get your parent or child into psychiatric bed, there's just not enough of these beds right now. So we need the facilities to be built. That's the 2024 problem that we're living with the 2004 model of the law that's in place. So we need people to vote yes on it so we can update our system.
Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be speaking with somebody from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. They're against Prop 1. They say things like this is going to cost taxpayers $10 billion. It's a credit card type of borrowing. Bonds are the most expensive way to get money. Sacramento's already spent $20 billion on the homeless crisis in 5 years, and we haven't even seen anything. What do you say to them who they say, we don't need any more money to be throwing at this problem, there's already enough?
I hear what they're saying. What I'm interested to hear about them say is, if we've spent so much money and not seeing the results, well, clearly it's the mechanism by which we're spending the money. We're trying to fix that mechanism. We're trying to spend it on the mental health beds. People who are staying in psychiatric hospitals right now don't have the intermediate and lower level steps to go to. They have to. Some people are staying in psychiatric hospitals for over a year because there's no placement. So that's what I'd say to that. I'd also say we have first responders who are begging us to pass this because it's going to relieve the stress on their attention to mental health issues, get people in the types of beds they absolutely need, and it's going to mean that everyday San Diegans don't have to wait as long in ERs and in trying to get their family members or themselves into the type of help they need.
Councilmember Raul Campillo, good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, and just a reminder, we will be having that other guest. They are against Prop 1. That's coming up in the next hour, so you'll hear some of the other side. Teresa?
Thank you, Logan and Raul. The Just in Time for Foster Youth organization is hosting a series of